Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Stand up for your country. Holiday madness is descending. Have you noticed, maybe it's me, but I don't think so, there's more exuberance this year around Thanksgiving. And I know that'll carry over to Christmas. And I've been watching it. You know, Thanksgiving is always a good holiday, but it's a little understated. Not this year. People are really looking forward to this holiday, and it's because, in my opinion, they're exhausted. Folks are exhausted in this country by the rapid changes and by the challenges in the grocery stores and everywhere else. Pay more money. And they're worried. A lot of people are worried about stuff. And so when you get a relief mechanism, which is what Thanksgiving and Christmas are, in addition to being very worthy days, now people are really embracing it. That's a good thing. So we got a whole bunch of stuff we're going to tell you about, which I think will make your Thanksgiving better. I hope it will. And we will be around, okay, this weekend. It's primarily me. I'm giving everybody off, but I'll be around. All right, anything happens, I'll be on it, tweeting, you know what we do. And we'll have a new column on Sunday and all of that. Talking Points Memo is the latest in the Ukraine war. Don't get overly optimistic here, all right? Because Putin, one guy can do it. But U.S. delegation led by Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Tolbert, who I have never heard of. He's a spokesman for the U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. They're over in Abu Dhabi in the Persian Gulf, okay? United Arab Emirates. And they're talking to the Russians and the Ukrainians. And the Russian, it's kind of shadowy. But according to a dispatch today, Ukraine has agreed to a peace deal. Now, you remember the hysteria over the weekend by the press that this deal is terrible, blah, blah, blah. And it was all bull, as we reported yesterday. Okay, the deal was not even close to being formalized, and it was just a first draft. But again, I'm not sure about all of this. So last night, Putin killed 6 more people in Kyiv, rockets, drones, the usual. And Putin knew about this conversation with Ukraine, probably knew that Ukrainians were going to apparently agree to a peace deal. Now, it's been going on for 4 years. Ukraine has lost 100,000 soldiers killed, about 300,000 wounded. 53,000 Ukrainian civilians dead. Thank you, Vlad Putin. 53,000 civilian Ukrainian casualties in total, 14,500 dead. And 7 million Ukrainians have left the country, including hundreds of thousands of men of draft age. There is a draft in Ukraine. They don't want to fight. Now, on the Russian side, about 1 million casualties. We can't really get exact figures because there's no free press over there, but it's bad. And estimated cost of the war to Russia approaching $2 trillion, and they don't have that money. Okay, I mean, it's not like they have a Treasury Department like we do. They get money from oil sales and others, but $2 trillion, 4 years, for what? Nothing. But Ukraine is very weak. And we said this yesterday. So last night I went on News Nation and I reiterated it to their audience. Go. Zelensky is very weak now for the following reasons. Number one, get 200,000 Ukrainian men are AWOL from the draft. Doesn't have enough soldiers. The Ukrainians are now paying mercenaries to do the fighting. Number two, there's a huge scandal brewing. 3 of Zelensky's very close advisors are suspected of taking millions of dollars in bribes from a nuclear energy concern in Ukraine, all right? Nuclear power. And the third one is that the Ukrainian army cannot get a foot and hold of ground. It's 100% defensive war. Okay, so you're dealing with something here where Zelensky is kind of desperate. And that's why he's going to make the deal, if he makes it. Again, very cautious. But Putin doesn't accept the deal. And Putin will probably jack everybody around like he always does. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then on Thanksgiving, he'll blow the hell out of whoever can do. So I don't know one way or the other, but I want everybody's expectations to be realistic, including the President of the United States, who I've not talked to for a while now. All right. I expect I will talk to him in the next few days. I hope so, because we have a lot to talk about. But Putin is the problem. There's no doubt about it. One man, all of that, millions of people, dead, wounded, displaced. One man. That's why I put him on Confronting Evil, the cover. That's why he's there. People go, oh, well, Putin, is he that bad to be with Hitler and Mao and the... Yeah, he is. This guy, I got to tell you, when I hear people praising him or sympathizing with him, over. For me, that means the person is not smart enough to engage me in conversation. Okay? And that's a low bar. I'll talk to pretty much anybody. So, summing up, White House says Ukraine will sign off on a peace deal that they have proposed. Talks will continue in Abu Dhabi. Let's pray it happens. And I use that word pray literally because I do believe that there is a deity that looks out. Because this has got to stop. But if Putin doesn't stop it, every resource that we have, we being the United States and NATO, got to be used to destroy the man. It's as simple as that. Enough. And that's a memo. Let's go to China. So they had a phone call, Xi and Trump, yesterday. They got a decent relationship. It's not close. Trump at one time thought he had a fairly close relationship with Putin. Of course, that did not turn out to be true. Xi and a business relationship. So as I reported in September, the president will be going to China, Beijing, in April. Okay, good. And that was what I discussed with the Chinese officials when I was there in May of this year. I discussed the president's impending visit. And I'm glad it's happening. I had nothing to do with it formally, but I was telling him this is what you got to do to get him over here. And one of the things is fentanyl. Got to get out of that business. And then if the meeting goes well, he'll come to USA. Good. All of that, we need to have China back away from Putin, number one, and have an economic arrangement with the United States that benefits the whole world. That's what we need. Okay? Whether you like China or not, no. Chinese are still fixated on Taiwan. And the Japanese are giving the Chinese trouble, which I kind of like. And because anything that keeps Beijing off balance is good for us. All right, so that's happening. Back home. Now, Trump is pardoning a turkey today. They're named two of them, Waddle and Gobble. The turkeys actually stayed at the Willard Intercontinental Hotel before they were pardoned. Now, I stay at the Willard Intercontinental Hotel because Lincoln stayed there and U.S. Grant got drunk there. Okay? So I like that history. So I stayed there. And the turkeys stayed there. So they're pardoned. It's the fifth turkey pardon for President Trump. Now, there is no truth to the rumor that Senator Kelly from Arizona wanted to be in that pardon crew with the turkeys. That is not true. Okay. Now, this is, I guess it's cute, but it's meaningless. But come on, I'm not going to be a Grinch here. Now, the turkey pardon dates back to Abraham Lincoln's son, who asked his father to spare a pet turkey, because they did have Thanksgiving during the Lincoln administration. We'll get to that in a moment. Fascinating. Then the Trumps get on Air Force One. They fly down to Palm Beach about 6 p.m. Eastern time. He's going to have to work down there. Now, he'll play a little golf and have a little meal, but Venezuela, pretty big. So the new poll out from CBS, YouGov, so-so poll, about Venezuela. First question, has the Trump administration clearly explained the U.S. position on military action in Venezuela? Yes, 24%, no, 76%. I think that's accurate. More explanation would be bad, I think. Second question, is Venezuela a threat to U.S. security? Major threat 13, minor threat 48. That brings us up to 61. Not a threat 39. Again, that's a pretty good sampling. Just the drugs alone coming from Venezuela, this country, and the gangs, is a threat. Third, do you favor or oppose U.S. taking military action in Venezuela? Favor 30, oppose 70. That's what the action is. You know, that's a bogus question because we don't know what they're talking about. And final question, do you approve or disapprove of using military force to attack boats suspected of bringing narcotics into the USA? Approve 53, disapprove 47. Interesting. That's very interesting. Now, my prediction is, and I could be very, very wrong on this, it's what I'm hearing, can't report it as fact, that the dictator Maduro, who is a drug merchant, enriching himself, he's going to get out of there. They're going to make a deal, move him out someplace, maybe Spain, and they'll let him take his money. But he'll be gone. I think good chance that'll happen. I don't know the time frame. Got it on tape. The new leadership at HHS is sounding the alarm on America's chronic disease epidemic, and for good reason. 1 in 2 adults have high blood pressure. Many don't even know it. That is a ticking time bomb. But the good news is you have the power to take control naturally with 120 Life. 120 Life is a blend of great tasting superfruit juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure naturally. Trusted by hundreds of health professionals, people just like you have already seen real measurable results. It is completely risk-free. If you do not see lower numbers in 2 weeks, you get your money back. So take control of your blood pressure today. Go to 120life.com. 120life.com. Use code BILL to save 15%. This is serious. This is your life we're talking about. 120 Life can help. So I want to bring in a historian that we like. His name is Talmage Boston. He's the author of a book, How the Best Did It, Leadership Lessons from Our Top Presidents. He joins us now from Dallas. He's a presidential historian, as am I. So going back to 1622, the Puritans, obviously, with Squanto, they had the 3-day Thanksgiving. And then it kind of went fallow for a while, right? I mean, it wasn't organized, and yeah, the harvest was over, and some states did some stuff. But it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln came into office in the middle of the Civil War that Thanksgiving took on a modern shape, correct?
Right. Well, some earlier presidents had tried. George Washington, 2 different years, had proclaimed a national day of Thanksgiving during his 8 years. John Adams twice during his 4 years. James Madison twice during his 8 years. But nobody was trying to make it an annual national tradition. And in the meantime, several states were making it an annual national tradition, but it wasn't all the states. And so a wonderful woman named Sarah Josepha Hale in the 1840s decided it needed to be a national annual holiday. And she began a serious campaign. She was editor of the leading magazine of her era. She'd write all these wonderful editorials describing Thanksgiving in the glowing terms we think of today, in terms of families coming together, big meals, prayers, reviewing the year, et cetera, et cetera. But her pleas kept falling on deaf ears until finally in 1863, President Abraham Lincoln said, yes, you've got the idea we need, particularly in the middle of the Civil War. And it all started as an annual tradition there in November 1863, and we've celebrated it every year since then.
Now, that woman, Lamb, right?
Hale, Sarah
Hale.
Joseph.
She wrote a very famous song. That's why I get the names mixed up.
A
right?
famous poem, Mary Had a Little Lamb, was her most famous. She had books of poetry. She wrote novels. She wrote short stories. And she had this magazine that had writers like Nathaniel Hawthorne and Edgar Allan Poe and Washington Irving. And so she was
big. She wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. So how did she get in touch with Lincoln?
Well, she was a very prominent business person in Philadelphia, and she just wrote a letter to the White House the same way you and I can. But because of her influence, presumably, her letter got to the top of the stack. And Lincoln, during his presidency, was on something of a spiritual transformation. He issued several proclamations for days of prayer and fasting and Thanksgiving. So when her pitch came in late October, within a week, he said yes. He was absolutely ripe for taking her idea and formalizing it, and it's been with us ever since.
Well, and I'm glad you wrote this column for the Dallas Morning News, which will be on Thanksgiving morning. I didn't know this, and I wrote Killing Lincoln. And maybe you can explain to me, in 1863, the Civil War was not a fait accompli. It was a bloody mess that the North could have lost. And why would Lincoln want to be thankful for that?
Well, what he was thankful for, as far as the fall of 1863, they had big days on July the 4th with Gettysburg and Vicksburg. He had issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, which meant all the slaves from the South were running up to the North, joining the Northern Army, creating a manpower surge that Lincoln thought was going to be absolutely crucial to victory, which in fact it was. So, yes, the war was still in full force, but there were reasons to think that there was going to be better news on the horizon. Of course, in 1864, the next year, when Lincoln seizes on Ulysses Grant as finally the general who can win this war,
right.
He's probably got his eye on Grant already, since he had been the lead Union general at Vicksburg. So finally, he was coming across generals who could win the war. And this emancipation, of course, with his religious transformation, thinking that slavery was a moral evil, that God definitely wanted slavery to end as the great national sin, which Lincoln formalized in his second inaugural address in 1865. So he was going through this transformation and seeing good things happening. But as you point out, there was still a lot of war left to
so he
place.
wanted to, bring God into it and all that. And then you flash forward to the federal holiday, where mail isn't delivered, everybody is off. That didn't happen in World War II, right? Till FDR.
Well, it happened every year, just because maybe the precedent set by Lincoln, whatever it was. We never missed a year after 1863. But as you point out, it wasn't until Franklin Roosevelt's presidency in 1939 when he said, let's make this a definite date. And some years it was for many years, it was the last Thursday in November, which was not giving enough shopping days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So by 1941, Franklin Roosevelt formalized it's going to be the fourth Thursday in November.
But again, it's the same dilemma. In 1941, we're looking at the Nazis in Japan rising in ferocity. And then all of a sudden, well, let's get a Thanksgiving holiday, formal holiday. And you go, what are we getting thanks? This is a big war coming on. But Roosevelt had a little bit different take than Lincoln did on it, right?
Well, Roosevelt was thinking we're still in the Great Depression, even though World War II was bringing us out. He wanted to make the holiday such that it would maximize the boom to the economy that holiday.
The economic. It wasn't so much God, it was manna for FDR.
Correct.
Yeah, he wasn't a God. He wasn't a big God guy. Very fascinating, Mr. Boston. Again, Talmage's article will appear in Dallas Morning News on Thanksgiving Day. Thanks for helping us out. Really appreciate it. Fascinating. Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's an experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, mystery ingredients. Ooh. Well, Massa's chips contain just 3 ingredients: corn, sea salt, 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Real food only. Personally, my favorite flavor, Massa Chips Original. And if you love Massa, you'll love Vandy Crisps too. They make delicious 3-ingredient potato crisps. My Vandy Crisps favorite, French onion. Ready to give Massa or Vandy a try? Use code BILL for 25% off your first order at massachips.com or vandycrisps.com. Simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Massa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by, pick up a couple of bags before they're gone. Let's face it, the U.S. economy is under stress. National debt rising, trade war shaking the markets, and meanwhile, China is dumping the dollar and stockpiling gold. That's why I protected my savings with physical gold and silver through the only dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. And you can do this. Get precious metals delivered to your door or place in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. They'll even help you roll over your existing IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. With billions in precious metals delivered, thousands of 5-star reviews, and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, you can trust American Hartford Gold as I do. Please call 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. Again, that's 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. Okay, Thanksgiving at the O'Reilly House, very traditional. I put the parade on. Nobody watches it. Nobody watches the parade on NBC. Why would they? Floats, people waving, Snoopy balloon. How long can you watch that? I never watched it. I see it as I pass by. Rockettes. Never seen the Rockettes. I don't know anybody, and I live here where the Rockettes are. Nobody's ever seen them. They're there. Now, I try to get the mass to be thankful that I'm in great condition at this stage of my life. That alone, right? I never get there. There's so much stuff coming in, people coming in. So I should get there. I don't. We eat around 4. Turkey, everything, the traditional deal. Lay it all out. People serve themselves. Sit at my grandmother's table. It's 120 years old, and we have a nice meal. Watch a little football, but not crazy. All right? A little bit. And then I look for a classic movie to watch at night. I'll watch The Wizard of Oz again. Not the whole thing, but I like the dog, little dog. So that's the O'Reilly Thanksgiving tradition. Everybody has a good time. No politics unless they ask me. They ask me because I know a lot, and I'll tell them, but I don't bring it up. I want you to have a great Thanksgiving. All right? Take a break. 2-3 days, just relax if you can. And I will have a Sunday column, and we will see you again on Monday. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.